Grand Rising family, how's everybody doing? I know I took a day hiatus as pretty much I needed to have a day of self-reflection, cleansing, meditating, getting my mind back on track to go into this new phase, this new era. Sometimes you just got to take a break for a second just for self-reflection and for yourself. And even if you have to, I definitely implore you to do that. It was well worth it just to stay away, no posting, just get a clear mind and figure out what you need to do next, okay? And get yourself together and like I said, prepare for these next steps because there's so many things that I got planned going on in the future to help the collective. I had to take time back to also step in to do that as well. So let's continue back on with the assignment, okay? Now, in this portion that we're going to be talking about, because this is going to be a first part, and then I'm going to do another one to play catch up. So in this part, what we talked about last time, this is going to be your role as a flame carrier. So let's get into it. The ancients knew fire spreads not by hoarding it, but by sharing it. And that's you. A messenger as a flame in this generation. Now, what does that mean? Flame rising in you equals flame rising in them as you spread your message and your knowledge and your healing and your support and your whole essence. When you speak, it isn't just words, it's memory waking up. The more you teach, the more you ignite. You don't pull yourself out of empty. The fire multiplies as you pass it on. So remember to keep passing on that knowledge, keep passing on that information so people can then take in what you have provided and maybe think more into what you're saying. Sometimes the truth may hurt, but at least they're getting real, authentic you telling a story, telling the vision that they could then spread out to other people to have them see it in a different light. Your presence itself is activation. Every silence, when rooted in flame, transmit power. Now, how to walk it. Teach from lived truth, not borrowed scripts. The flame isn't theory. It's the heat of your journey. Speak what you embody, and the fire will carry itself. Number 2, hold space like a circle, not a pyramid. Even as a teacher, you are also a student. Again, as I always say, we are forever students as long as we are walking in this realm. Invite voices, questions, and reflections so the flame multiplies. So even what I out to you, I do to a lot of you guys videos and I say, okay, that makes sense. And it adds on to the knowledge that I have, as I hope that the knowledge that I gave you adds on to what you have. And number 3, in each teaching with an activation. This seals the flame in the collective spirit, so it travels with them beyond your voice. So remember, even though when you say people may think it's controversial, it's going to leave them with something. It's going to leave them something to think about. They may have their own discretion or discernment or disagreements, but you left a little pebble, you left a little stone there for them to then reflect on, like, maybe. Let me go in to look into these things. If I'm going to debate this person, let me at least look into it. It piques the curiosity of what you're saying to get the message out. Now, with that message that you get out, they can go on and say all that. I would say in return, I think, okay, do your research. And whatever you research, come back to me, and then we could talk about this. We can exchange notes because together we are learning. We don't always want it to feel like it's an attack, but we want to make it feel like it's more, I'm hearing what you're saying, you're hearing what I'm saying. But at least if you are going to debate me, at least check out what I'm saying. At least consider it. Look at different perspectives than what you've been taught, because sometimes what you've been taught is not always accurate. Same with me. I'm not all, and if there's anything that I could be corrected on, I don't take it as, oh, why did you correct me? I take it as to where, oh, it was another learning lesson. Again, we are forever students. We're learning every day. We're not perfect. And I never claim to be perfect. I love to learn. And if my idea and the changes that I had in mind, or what I have perceived as one thing, and you bring me a new type of knowledge, something to consider. Let me go in and do my research. We have to push people to learn to get the answers on their own. And what I've learned, in because I was a heavily debater like you, but we cannot be into the mindset that we know everything. I take your response or your idea into consideration, but now take it to mind, research at least what I'm saying, and then come back. Talk to me. Look into what I'm saying at least consider what I'm saying. So that's how we want to try to move forward, and how we could get the people to move forward and have a type of mind frame that you're having. Because a lot of times they won't understand. Of course, everybody sees things differently, but at the same time, we're trying to get people to understand that, yeah, what you learn may be one thing, but it's always different answers to one question. Even if you look at school right now, let's go to like the school that's nowadays. I see that the kids' math is different than from what we learned, which means that it's different ways to get to an answer. There's never one set way to get to an answer. So it's not saying that your way is wrong, but here's another way to look at it and how to get the answers, if you get what I'm saying. Now, this is an activation for the collective. When you doing your teaching and you are getting the word out to the people, this is what you should do. At the close of your lesson or what you're putting out there, have them, like I said again, reconsider what's going on, what you need for them to visualize. But this is an activation for my collective. And at the close of this lesson, I want you to repeat after me or say silent in meditation. Flame of wisdom, rise in me. Flame of balance, root in me. Flame of love, move through me. So it is, the flame lives. And I'm going to end this on this note. Don't forget, you are not just teaching history. You are calling souls back home. When your words strike their chest, it ain't you. It's the remembering itself. Okay? So again, like I said, as we all trying to school people on the reality of certain topics, we need to make sure to remember that we are re-educating not only ourselves, but everybody else that's listening to what we have to say, the message that we put out there. We are re-educating them. We're making them see things and interpret things differently. Let's say that you read a poem, for instance. You may read the poem in a different way or understand it in a different way as people may understand it in another way. The same way as you may look at a painting. The painting, you may get an idea of what the artist is trying to do, but a person has another interpretation. So everybody's perspective is going to be different. And let's say they are in the books, for instance, another thing. how they may interpret the book that we're talking about, or the book that they left out books in. How they may interpret it may be indifferent how you interpret it, and it seems to be that way. Like, you have people who read the Bible, for instance, at face value, and then you have the Bible, people that read the Bible read it on an esoteric level. These are two different comprehensions that do not align. People look at the book at face value, others look at it metaphorically. And that's where a lot of the hiccups come with that, because they don't read into it or understand the words that they're reading. A lot of times, they may interpret this differently. They may think it's one when it's many, as an example. And that is so true. Because, again, people's interpretations is different. And sometimes you have to break it down to the people, especially if you want to get the message out. Break it down to them to where they can see on your level. And actually, like I said, question. There's nothing wrong with questioning, but ask them, research what I'm saying. At least take into consideration what I'm saying. If this information that I'm spewing out to you may sound conflicting, that's good. That means you should go in and do a little bit of research, especially if there's something that sits strongly on your heart and you like, let me question. That's when you should go in, step into your role. Like, okay, I encourage you, I implore you to look at it from a different perspective, because what you have been taught may not be the correct way. Like I said, there's always different ways to get into an answer of something. It's just the way of looking at different ways to get to that answer. Your message is not wrong, but your answer is not wrong, but it's just to tweak it to look to see, maybe this person has a point. Let me go and research instead of just throwing it down. I think that's the problem with a lot of us at this point, where we look at it as to where, like, my answer is the right answer, and this answer is the right answer, and this answer is the right answer, but nobody meets each other in the halfway mark. So pretty much, as you being the flame carrier, make sure when you're teaching, and if they have questions, ask about it. Answer them, but answer them to where it piques their interest now, and say, let me look into it. Let me check that out. Break down your answers. Break down your responses. Break down, okay, well, what I mean by this, look into this particular section. What I mean to this, look into this particular section. Remember, we're trying to bring the collective into a more understanding. Okay? So that was the end of the first 4-part series. That was pretty much of a quick assignment right there, which is your role as a flame carrier, because it's very, very important. Your messages and what a lot of you do is so chef's kiss, and I must applaud you all, because you guys are on point, and you guys know who you are, because I follow a lot of you. What you put out there to the collective is very, very much on point. But now we have to go on to teach them a way to understand. Give them some keys. Sometimes people don't know where to go, and you may have to provide them with a little guidance, Like, okay, look into this to get this response. Understand why I'm saying it. I understand what you read or what you was taught. But tell them that it's always different answers, and it's always different ways to interpret. Not everybody's going to have the same concept. And this is how I want you to look at it. Because as you look at it on the correct way, they're looking at it as based on what they've been indoctrinated with. So a lot of times, that information that you're putting out is not getting there. And it's just because they don't understand on a different mindset. Everybody is not going to be elevated on the mindset as you, but you have to, sometimes what I learned, especially as being a coach and teaching people, you sometimes have to dumb it down just a little bit. And I know it sounds crazy because people are adults, but with some people you have to dumb it down just a little bit and give them little breadcrumbs to assist them to do that. Now, if they're willing to take your breadcrumbs, they're going to look into it deeper. If not, then that's them and they just want to debate. But as long as you know that you gave them some sort of guidance, because again, it's like teaching a child over and over again, and it technically is. Because when you're in such a heavy indoctrination of a certain type of mindset, or whatever the case may be, it's hard to break out of that. It's like being in a cult or something like that, where you have strong belief in this person or this individual or this organization. If you've been heavily indoctrinated, it's hard to break out of that. You can ask a lot of people who have been in said cults or whatever the case may be, and they're indoctrinated with a certain mindset, to have them instantaneously change their mindset is going to be difficult because they've been taught in a certain way. So as you being in your flame carrier position and you're teaching these people, you have to breadcrumb them a little bit, I want to say. You know what I mean? You have to teach them as a baby and stuff like that and show them the way, because now in order for them to think on your mindset, they have to understand how you got your knowledge. How did you pick up on this? How did you interpret this? You know, it just has to happen that way, especially if we're trying to let the collective see the reality of certain things. Okay? All right, so now that we got over that part, the next set of teachings that we're going to do is the return of the hidden books and voices. So I showed you, spoke about what was already stolen. Now we're going to get into hearing the voices that empires silence. And with this teaching and how this set of teaching is going to move is a little bit differently. In this teaching, we're going to teach about the Law's books, the Gospel of Thomas, Gospel of Mary Magdalene, Wisdom of Solomon, Book of Enoch, Book of Jubilees, Shepherd of Hermes, etc. And in this particular session, we're going to talk about what they reveal, wisdom, balance, and mysteries, why empire feared them. The second point that we're going to be teaching about is the erased voices, women prophets, healers, midwives, oracles, grandmothers, priestesses. And we're going to talk about how everyday women and men carry the divine word in their bones. The third point we're going to be getting into is how to listen now. And in this section, it's going to say, even without a full Bible, those voices speak through meditation, prayer, ancestral dreams, and the body's knowing. And lastly, a practice is going to be for the collective, where you will, again, pick one suppressed text or one ancestor's voice this week. And you're going to read or meditate with intention and ask, what was hidden here? And how does it rise in me today? Okay. So that's what we're going to be going into next. And that's going to be like series 5, pretty much. Okay, so like I said, sorry for the day lapse. Like I said, and I do employ everybody who do watch this, take a day for yourself. Get off the internet, take a breather, get out into nature, self-reflect, get your energy back in, get your mind refocused, because as things starts to come in and the energy starts to flow, and anytime you try to elevate, you're always going to have some type of hindrance, especially on my behalf. So yes, I do implore you to go out, get some freedom, get away from the technology, a day away from the technology, and do some self-reflecting, do some reevaluation, and see what you need to do next. Okay? So as always, Spirit Team, Flame Carriers, as always, Supreme Rising, speaking truth, and Ashe.